Welcome, everyone, to another fantastic episode of Double Booked. Today, I'm thrilled to have a very special guest, an author who took us on a wild, shadow filled journey in the Vale, a storyteller who made us question what's real, gave us an eerie, glowing vision, and blended chilling horror with a touch of supernatural. Please welcome the brilliant E.H Bradley. How are you doing, my friend?
Hello, my friend. How you doing? You
Doing
okay?
good. I'm so
Yeah,
excited to have you on. This is something I've been looking forward to since we booked this
yeah.
weeks ago. I've been super excited to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, me too. I've been waiting for it all day. Well, I'll tell a lie. I was writing all most of the day, and I've just finished about an hour or two ago to get ready for this.
Awesome. What time is it on your neck of the woods?
It is 7 o'clock now.
At night?
Yeah, in the evening. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's 2 in the evening here. So I had enough time. I went did some swimming this morning with the kids and been doing nothing but yard work. So that's kind of been my day so far. And then now it's storming really bad. So it's not going too well. We have a few awesome people that jumped in. We're gonna say hey, and then I want to jump into all about you. We have Sean. How's it going, man? Sean and Sean. I'm just kidding. It's and Sam. Hey, Sam. How are you? All right, so jumping in for those not familiar with your work, what's a elevator pitch for the Veil?
That's a hard one. It's a story about four kids who their lives get turned upside down by a simple everyday kind of, well, it's not really a simple accident. It's quite bad, but once they wake up and begin to recover from that, it's not just about the recovery back to health. It leads them on to discovering the world is not what we think it is, and it's been controlled for a very long time for things outside of our ability to do anything about it. We're essentially veiled over. There's an undercurrent or a thread that runs through it, a bit of tragedy within Charlie's own family. His little brother went missing a few years before um, due to a similar accident, and when he woke up, he started to see the same things that Charlie and his friends see. And as everything unravels, they ultimately want to pull away to stay safe, his three friends. But Charlie, rather, I wouldn't say selfishly, he's torn, very torn, because he blames himself for what happened to his little brother. He is more guided towards finding what has actually happened to him and pursuing what is going on with them rather than running away from it. So it causes a lot of drama and conflict. And then eventually something happens where it is all it unravels so much where it's out of their hands. They have to face the darkness, if you like, and hopefully survive.
Hopefully, hopefully we'll see what happens. Go through and read and find out. It's definitely a fun story. We've talked a few about. I did a review for it as well. I truly enjoyed the story. I thought it was a lot of fun. Obviously, with every story and every person that goes through and reads a book, there's going to be some things that hit and things that don't. But overall, I truly enjoyed your story, and I hope that everyone, if they have not read it, go through and pick it up as soon as they can and go through and read it. It's definitely um, great and has a lot of symbolism, which I truly enjoy in a story. Any type of story I go through and read. So I'm curious. We kind of were talking about when before we went on the live how you came up with the idea for the veil, but I'm really curious before that. What was your history to becoming an author? A little bit about your background.
It started. It's actually detailed a little bit in the veil. Good fiction is always truth wrapped in a lie, and it is detailed a little bit through Charlie's own life, where he received an adventure game book off his cousin when he was about 12. The same thing kind of happened to me. Is my camera going funny? Yeah, I was about 11 or 12, and my cousin gave me a book. It was one of the choose your own adventure books. Um, And once I got that, I'd read a few books before that. I read my library clean actually in school, in primary school,
Hmm.
and um, it was probably around about the same time. But once I got that, it was fantasy. I remember it was Lone Wolf #2, and I thought, what the hell? What is this? It was around about the time where I don't even know if we had Super Mario and all that. Nintendo NES was just first coming out. I think I had an old Spectrum or something where you load the tapes. Anyway, once I started reading that was it. And like me, anything that I do in life, if I really like it, I'll always try my hand at it. Um, at least give it a go. Some things don't work out, some things do. Like I tried guitar, I just don't have the patience for it. But other things, I loved music, especially going clubbing when I was younger. So I used to DJ as well and play in a lot of parties and things like that. So it's kind of related in the same way where I read a load of these books when I was about 11, 12, and I started just messing around, writing my own stories. But I was always the one in primary school. We'd be given, an essay to do like my summer vacation or some boring crap like that. And I would always twist it where wherever we went to, the town was full of vampires or werewolves or something that I could twist it into a fantasy or kind of a horror type story. Um, so that went on for a few years. And then when I got to about 15, 16, I discovered going out, meeting guys, drinking beer and all that stuff. And I kind of forgot it for quite a long time. I still read every now and again, but I picked it up about 2, 3 years ago. And I fell right back into reading again. I was like, I forgot, why did I stop doing this? Um, and of course, every time I talked to my wife, I would keep rabbiting on about this story, that story, and I wonder if it did this, and I wonder if it did. And she just said, Eamon, why don't you just write a book? Just do something. Stop doing my head. And I went, okay. So 3 months later, I had the Ranger written, because
Wow.
I just as soon as I started it, that was it, and that was um, that was 18 months ago. Well, a year ago in February, just gone. So I now have, yeah, I'm now almost finished the third book. Well, a third separate book. So yeah, it's come from very, very young. Just a
Wow.
love stories and love telling them.
That's impressive. So, like 3 months, is that just the first draft, or was that from, okay, I'm going to start working on this to being finished with the story?
No, that was the first draft. Yeah,
That was the
I,
first draft. That's impressive. Wow.
I put it away then for about 6 weeks, and while that was away, I wrote half of the Veil, and then went back to it for editing and polishing and all the rest of it. Published it then in October. By the time I published it in October, the Veil was almost done. I finished that then about Christmas, and I finished the first draft. Before I edited that, I started 3 days then in February, and that's almost finished now with the Veil coming out next week. So it's about just I love it, so it doesn't really bother me working that much. It doesn't feel like work to me. I just sit down, put my music on, and I'm gone. But if you want to make it, you need to practice. You need to write every day. You need to read every day. It's like anything. It's like going to the gym,
Hmm.
learning a new trade, anything at all. It needs to be done, and it needs to be consistent. You don't have to do like mountains and mountains of it, but if you're consistent, you do at least a few hours every day, you will improve and you will learn. If
Hmm.
if there's something there to work with, obviously.
All right. So, curious hobbies. So, you mentioned DJing, which I think that's awesome. But what is there any kind of current hobbies you are currently doing outside of reading and writing? Of course, any unique passions?
Apart from drinking beer, no. Right, I write too much. I've gamed all my life as well, as I mentioned before. So I've got my PS5 sitting there, and I turned it on yesterday for the first time in about, I don't know, about 8 months. I played a little bit of Resident Evil 4 and switched it off again and went back to writing.
Nice. Yeah, I
So
have PS, no, Xbox. I have the Xbox One that's been in my closet, and I think the last time I turned it on was when I had COVID in 2020,
yeah,
and that
yeah,
was the last time I turned it on. It was I was playing Xbox, decided, hey, I'm going to start reading because I'd never been a reader really before that, and I picked up a book, and then I never turned on the Xbox again because I was obsessed.
yeah. I mean, I've gamed before. before I started writing a year and a half ago, I have a game as much as I write now. It's just that the fact the writing's just replaced it, to be honest. I've played a lot, especially very dark games like Dark Souls and Elden Ring, all those big, long fantasy games, the really hard ones that that you really have to persevere. I guess I think that's bled into my writing a little bit as well. The only thing that's stopping you from getting books out is yourself.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's I've worked hard as a carpenter all my life, so sitting down writing a book is a completely different. It's a tranquil experience rather than cutting a roof or hanging doors and all the different things that I do. So yeah, it doesn't bother me. I love it. So, but I've got so much to tell as well. I already have 3 days finished, and I've got my next book, which is called Tina, the parallel story with a little bit of time travel, to do with a woman and a serial killer. That's all I'm saying for now. But
so you have 3 days, Tina, that are currently in the works right now.
Tina, I'll be starting. I've got around about 28,000 words left on 3 days. I'll have that done in about two weeks or so.
Wow.
I'll put that away, and while that's away resting, so I can forget all about it before I write the second draft, I'll write Tina, which is I wrote the first 4 sentences today just to tease myself, and that's proof now to get to work even harder to get 3 days finished. And then after that, I've got another book planned called Ferndale, but that's the name of a town, Ferndale, that I see in my mind, and it's very much inspired by Stephen King's It. I love the way he did, the parallel stories between the young and the old, and how he seamlessly transitions in the dialogue between each, time jumps, but it does it beautifully, and I'm obsessed with it, so much so that I've got a big book planned for that uses that in it. I'm inspired. I'm not stealing.
Yeah.
I'm inspired by it. But it's not a monster like Pennywise. It's something completely different.
Oh, cool. I can't wait. So, a little behind the scenes. I've never read it. I've watched the movies. I've never read it. It's on my to read list one day, but the book's so big that I'm like, all right, I need to commit to going through and reading it. But it's on my list. So eventually I'll go through and get it. So I might honestly just wait until you finish yours so I don't see the parallel and I just jump in directly. So I might just check that out. So we have a few people that jumped in, and then I do have a follow-up question on your music you listen to. I'm really curious. So we have Steve, Mr. Stark. How's it going? And then we have the legend himself. How's it going, Mark? Mark is here with us. And then I think that's it. Y'all been talking in the chat, and I don't think I missed anything. All right. Yeah, I didn't miss anyone. So, so curious, you said you just go through, you put on your music, and you go to start writing. Do you listen to the same type of music, or is it, hey, I'm preparing to write this type of scene, I need to listen to this type of music to get my head into that kind of space?
Yeah, exactly. When I wrote The Ranger, it was all Lord of the Rings orchestra music all day, every day, all the way through, because it just put me in that world. When I wrote The Veil, it was very much Stranger Things, that kind of there's no dialogue or sorry, not dialogue, vocals, because I'm distracted, with words. So it's more orchestra, symphony type, So Stranger Things was one of the things I did for The Veil, because it just kind of fitted. But also a lot of Hans Zimmer as well. Time and throughout 3 days, it's been a mixture of the Last of Us soundtrack, and from the first game and some of the second game, and a lot of again Hans Zimmer. I have a video just put on repeat. It's like an hour long, but it's Interstellar, all slowed down and twisted. So it just puts me into that nice relaxed state. And then sometimes I don't put anything on at all, or sometimes I forget and I just start typing, and you realize half an hour later, God, I haven't put my music on, and then I'll put it on there.
Oh, nice. Okay. Have you thought about, so I really do enjoy when authors do this, and I'm curious if it's something you've considered doing, or if you're already doing it and I'm missing out, please let me know.
Mm.
There's some authors I've noticed they go through and create, hey, this is the Spotify list that I was going through and listening to as I was writing this book to help people really get into that mindset. Is that something you currently doing, you might consider doing in the future, or no, not
I
at
might
all?
do, yeah, if I've got enough people reading my books that actually might be interested. But no, it's not something I haven't even thought of, but I might do. Yeah, it's something to consider. Um, yeah, and see how well the Veil goes, see how many readers I get, and whatnot. And if it does, yeah, it would do. Because I have got a playlist saved on YouTube that I would run through. So yeah, it might be an idea to upload it to create something public on Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done it yet though. I haven't even thought of it, to be honest.
It's if you already have something, just go through and share it up, and you can also toss it at the end of the book, get people a little bit more like, oh, let me jump into this. So I've enjoyed it. So at least it would be for me. So if you want to share your stuff with me, I'll be happy to go through and listen to them as I'm reading. So jumping back in, we talked a little bit about unique passions. I'm curious, is there any hobbies that you might be interested in jumping into that could potentially help with your writing?
I think either painting or no, not music because it would just be it'd be too because I listen to enough anyway. But I think painting is something that I would love to do. I could always draw when I was a kid because I was obsessed with fantasy and horror and all that, kind of drawing dragons and all kinds of stuff. Especially when I started reading the stuff, first started reading it. So I did kind of gain a little bit of an ability to draw, but I haven't done it in years.
Mhm.
But I would like to be formally taught, how to paint. I wouldn't have the time now. I just wouldn't have the time at the minute.
Mhm.
Working full time and then writing every evening and weekends is just that takes up all the time. Maybe if I ever make it as a writer and I've got the spare time, then I would do it. Yeah.
That'd be cool. That'd be cool. Yeah. So Samantha agrees. You need to do your playlist. So that's two of us. So there's two people. We think we'll love it. But no, there. So yeah, I think that's so cool. Because there's an author. I don't know if you're familiar with him. His name's Gerald Brom. You familiar with Gerald? All right. He started out as an artist, and then he decided to write stories based off of his artwork. So now he writes amazing horror stories, and he does all the artwork for his book. So like you can flip through and be like, oh, this is what this character looks like from the actual person who writes the book. And he draws everything in there. So it's so cool to go through and have an envision in your head, but then you can actually see their actual artwork within the book. If I'm not mistaken, for a few years, you're a gamer. So he used to be the artist, and if I'm not mistaken, for is it Doom? Doom. He did some of the artwork for Doom. I don't know. It was one of those horror video games. So he did some horror writing and drawing for those types of things too. So very cool. So it's, it could be something down the line.
Yeah.
Once you get in the painting, being like, okay, this is exactly what these characters go through and look like would be cool.
It would help, especially when I'm creating places like, as in the Vale. I won't say too much for people who haven't read it yet, but because I see it all in my head anyway. So describing it and everything from your head, it probably would help to be able to sketch it out and draw it. In fact, that's how the cover of the Veil came about. When I was thinking about that section in the book, I thought that has to be the front cover, the red dome and everything. But I can't say too much, obviously, till people read it, and then we can talk about that.
Yeah, after it's out, we'll jump back on. We'll talk all spoilers with it. We are going to talk a little bit about the book later on. I have some specific questions I have that's non-spoiler, so we can talk high level about it. But getting into your writing process, I'm really curious, what has been the most challenging and also the most rewarding part about writing The Veil?
The most challenging part was definitely first person from Charlie's perspective, because it was difficult spending that much time, 3 4 months, especially the first draft, constant every day, not all day, but every day writing and being in that person's head, because I only really got to know him after the first draft was written. It's the same with all the rest of the characters, because they're always flat and unfeatured, to begin with. I have a vague idea of who they are, but then once they start behaving in their own ways and doing what they want to do and act and saying what they want to say, it's only after the first draft is complete and you start working on something else, something completely different, which is what 3 days is, that you look back and in the back of your mind, it's like it's constantly cooking and marinating over, and then you're realizing so much more. So when you go back and write the second draft, to make it more fully realized, it's written completely differently. You wouldn't even recognize the first draft of the Veil compared to what it is now. Mikey didn't even exist in the first draft.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So would you consider yourself then a pantser then rather than a plotter?
Oh, there's been a big debate on X this week, started by one of our DVS members, Blake. So a plotter would, for us, well, the way I see it is a plotter would sit down and have spreadsheets and notepads filled with all the chapter details, all the character, all the different personality traits, all the different things, all the different events that happen in the book, when they happen, the exact time, and then they sit down and they translate that into the book. I would start with two, three things. You would start with the situation. Two things, actually. The situation, the what if question, and your cast, your basic cast of characters. And I start from there. I have an idea of what the story is going to be, but I usually think about it for about 2 3 months before I start writing. I don't just sit down and start typing. That's impossible. Well, I mean, it probably is possible, but I imagine it'd be very frustrating and quite time wasting, because every idea you have is not going to turn into a book, so you could waste a lot of time just sitting there typing. But usually when I'm like right now, I'm almost finished 3 days, and I've got my next book, Tina, all in my head planned out, if you like. But there's no notes, there's nothing. I think I've got one little sticky note here somewhere, because there's a little bit of time travel involved, so I'm just working out maths. So that's the extent of it. That's all that exists of Tina and the 5 sentences I wrote today, and that will be it. That'll be it. If I get really stuck when I go along, and it's right in the meat of everything, to make sure everything stays cohesive, I will make a quick chapter outline, make sure I don't miss anything, or make sure that I'm continuing thread through, or things that I need to say. But how I say them, or what I'm going to say, I don't know until I actually just. It's like for a pantser, you just need the light at the end of the tunnel, and that it only works if the idea is strong enough in the beginning to propel, to have weight, to have legs to carry the story through. I've got another one that I've written which features some of the DVS members. It's a short story called Puddle People. It's fun, and I need to get it edited, but I'm going to share it with the guys, because I will do a collection of short stories, a bit of fantasy, sci-fi, and horror all mixed together. But it's a great little story, but that's all it is. It's just a short story. I've been thinking and racking my brain to try and make it bigger and make a book out of it. And sometimes the fossil you discover in the ground, it's just a little tooth, and then sometimes it's a whole dinosaur skeleton. You just have to let it be what it is.
So we have a friend that jumped in. Hey Molly, I hope you have a safe trip back home. And then you're cracking everyone up with Puddle People. It's like, it sounds awesome. So I'm really curious about this because I talk with a lot of different people, and I think their perspectives on plotters and pantsers it kind of falls in the same realm, but it's always something a little bit different. You mentioned, as long as I have the light at the end of the tunnel, I can go. So you have, hey, these are my characters, light at the end of the tunnel of where I want it to go. And then you go through and just start writing. I'm really curious, when you say light at the end of the tunnel, do you know, like, okay, this is where I want the story to start, this is where I want it to end, and then you're figuring out the middle parts, or is there a completely different process? I'm curious about.
Well, I've already got the start because that's the initial idea, and that's where I
Mhm.
am. I'm standing there, and I know kind of what the story that I want to tell.
Mhm.
Like the veil, but this only comes after months of thinking of it. So you stack layer on layer on layer
Mhm.
on layer until you go, right, I've got something here now. You know, I've got something from a beginning, a middle, and an end, and how I'm going to tie all this. But they change all the time. Lots of it changes all the time. The initial first draft, as I said, but the veil didn't even have Mikey in it. Mikey popped up um, when I was about halfway through writing the veil. I was like, oh, it just came out of nowhere, and I thought, oh man, that's a really good idea. And I wanted to go back then um, and start it all over again. I thought, no, I'll just finish it as it is, and I let it settle. And then when I went back and rewrote the second draft, I then threaded Mikey through it, and it made it a more powerful story from Charlie's point of view. But well, it gave the motive to everything. Um, but again, as I say, when I first came up with it, he didn't exist. He only existed as I was writing. But that's the beauty of the second draft, or second, third, fourth draft. You know, things come along, and you can always add and delete before before it comes out. So whereas I don't believe that you can actually plot all that in one go. That to me is very boring. You know, just sitting for months and not actually getting stuck in and doing the fun part. Because when I talk about planning, I'm planning whilst I'm writing my current
Mhm.
work. I'm planning in the back of my head because I already know what I'm doing, and once I get into the flow, but other ideas are just cooking. And if I do get something that's quite nice or I don't want to lose it, I'll make a little note as I'm writing my current work. So with Tina, I have that all set out as much as I need now, and I'm dying to get 3 days finished so I can get stuck into it. Um, so I plan on writing the all Tina in the next 3 months, and 3 days is a big book. It's a complicated book, so I really want to give it the 3 months to rest. Um, before I go back to it, I want to forget all about it. You know, just be completely fresh. So when I go back to it, it's always easier to kill someone else's darlings than it is to kill your own, because it'll feel like a foreign piece of work, but you know that it's yours.
Yeah.
Um, and that will give me 3 months. I'll smash because I've got Tina ready. I'll smash that out in 3 months for sure.
Wow.
I hope.
So when you're writing your stories, do you go linear, or do you go, hey, this scene is calling me, and you jump to a specific scene and then figure out how it's all going to work together like a puzzle?
No, God, no linear. From I just let it tell itself. Like it's like watching a movie in my head, basically. When I'm there, you just sometimes I write every day, even when I don't want to, because sometimes, even when you don't want to, if you start about for about 10, 15 minutes, you've untyped a few hundred words, it's not going great, and you're not really into it. But all of a sudden, something happens. It's weird, your mind flips, and you're in that world again. And then before you know it, 2 hours are gone, and you've got 2,000 words down. And you're like, I'm glad that I've done that now. And then other days, I'm chomping at the bit to get home, and the 2,000 words are down in an hour and a half. So I try to maintain between 1,000 and 2,000 a day. Um, so I average about 1,500, even when I don't want to.
So, do you mind going into the initial inspiration for the veil? So you mentioned, hey, as when I get the spark of an idea, then I go through and figure and then start layering on top of it. What was that initial spark for the veil? Where did that come from?
Well, the very first time I was reading Stephen King's fairy tale when I was writing The Ranger, and I was about halfway through The Ranger when I knew the veil was coming, and I started to have the initial idea for it, where this world was controlled by something that we couldn't see. I didn't know what it was at that point, but I just knew it was there. It was ticking. Um, so the first thing that happened was the fact that it was first person, that I had to decide on that first, what perspective I was going to tell it. And once I was reading fairy tale, I loved that book, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have to go first person with this. I didn't realize what I was getting myself in for, because it was difficult for me. Other people think it's easier. Like Molly loves first person. um it's not that I dislike it, I just find it a lot harder. But the main initial catalyst for everything was I started getting tinnitus a few years ago. And I went to the doctor, a few specialists, and every one of them told me they couldn't find anything wrong. And when I was at the hospital getting a hearing test, the woman said, the nurse said to me, she goes, "It's like your flight or fight system is kicking into overdrive, and it's telling you something's very, very wrong, but I don't know what, I can't see." And that was enough for me to think, it's something that's outside of that, and that's where that was the initial spark for everything.
That's cool. Do you still have those, or did that kind of heal itself?
No, I've still got it. I now think it's my neck is impinged here at the back of my neck. It's a bit of a sad story, but you'll read it when you read the tribute at the beginning of the Veil. It's dedicated to my cousin Marty, who's in the book. That is actually my cousin who unfortunately took his own life a few years ago. He was my best friend all my life, since we were 6 months apart in our birthdays. And a few years ago, due to COVID, he ended up drinking too much because he was working. And when work and COVID went away and he had to go back to work, he was still drinking and he was having glasses of wine, beers and stuff in the morning. And he put himself in a bad state basically. And when he got caught, he lost his job, his girlfriend kicked him out, his whole life fell apart in the space of a week. And I think withdrawal from the alcohol, everything else, it was too much. I know Marty, it was just too much for him, and he just said, "Fuck it, I'm out of here." And obviously that sent a pretty nasty ripple through our family for the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started writing the Veil, and Charlie was the only initial character in the beginning. Donna and Lisa and Marty came along not too far into it, but they popped up one by one. And I thought, what, I'm going to put Marty in here. Let's have one last adventure for me and him, like what we used to do and all the mad stuff that we used to get up to. So yeah, that I've lost the question. Sorry, because I'm
No, you're good, man. No, I was asking about the spark for the story. So yeah, I'm really sorry to hear about your cousin. Yeah, I know that was tough, or still is very tough. Definitely being
that's where it came from. The stress. I think it was the
the
stress.
stress. Yes, yeah.
On my neck that has actually caused an impingement from here. Because when I look up, I get dizzy. If I look down, everything spins. So it could be related. I'm gonna go and see about it later in the year. I'm not used to it now. I don't even notice it anymore, and it's quite loud.
So jump in a little bit more about the Veil. Did you always intend for it to be eerie and atmospherically horror with those supernatural elements, or did those go through and start developing as you were going through and writing your story?
The first chapter went through about 4 or 5 different iterations. It's like, it's a big introduction, and it's over 10,000 words long. I think in the beginning it was only about 3, but no, everything. I wrote it about 4 versions of it, 3, 4 different versions before it got edited. So each layer added a new layer of clarity and detail as I went through. And it just is what it is. It kind of that is the fossil that I found in the ground, if you like. And as I dusted it off, those new layers got added. There's no intention really behind it, other than the fact that it's a base. It is very basic core. It's a good versus evil tale. All the symbolism and the themes are all very accidental. There's one quite intentional one in there that hardly anyone has spotted. I know of only one person that's spotted it so far. But everything else, you never write in the beginning to start with symbolism and theme. It's a bad way to go. It's all about story in the beginning. The first draft is the old story draft, and when you read it, you start to notice things. Then, like the same thing happened with Stephen King when he wrote Carrie. It wasn't about the blood in the beginning. It was just about this girl. She has a period, develops her powers, and when he reread it, he started to notice that there was blood woven all unintentionally or accidentally all throughout the story. So when he rewrote the second draft, he worked on bringing that theme and that symbolism alive. But if you don't start with that, it's only something you notice after you've written your first draft. The first draft is just there. It's just scaffolding, really, for what the book will be in the end.
Mm-hmm.
So no, to answer your question, no, all that stuff got bolted on and just added as I layered it through, really.
Perfect. All right, we had a new friend jump in. Corvina Sweeney,
Hello.
the myth herself, made it in. I appreciate you jumping in. I do have a follow-up. I'm really curious on, from your perspective, what do you hope readers walk away thinking or even feeling after finishing The Veil?
God, I've never thought about that. It's not something I think about when I'm writing it. Well, I just want. It's a bit of a roller coaster. It's a bit of a slow burn to set and build everything up for, the latter half of the book. So I want people to, like when you've watched a good movie that kind of keeps you on the edge of your seat all the way through, and then at the end you just like had that nice, satisfying ending. Yeah, to enjoy the ride, but I wanted to be surprised as well a little bit. You know, there's a lot of unexpected twists and turns as the story unfolds, and mostly I just want them to enjoy it and to stay engaged, throughout the story and not be bored or put it down and think that it's crap or anything like that. Just literally to be entertained with a good story. That's my only intention. That's the only intention whenever I write anything. 3 days is a bit different though. It's very dark, which is where I. Well, no, the Veil's quite dark as well, isn't it?
I was about to say The Veil is pretty dark. So if
Yeah.
you're saying this is not dark, I'm super excited to see what kind of craziness 3 days is going to be coming out to.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll say it's pretty. I'd say it's darker than the Veil for sure. Because it's gruesome. It's just it's not a nice place. What happens?
Oh, I didn't. Rowdy's here. How's it going, Rowdy? I didn't see you on here. What's going, buddy? And then Blake showed up. How's it going, Blake? And everyone agrees that you need to work on making The Veil TV. It's good for TV material. So, yeah. So we need to figure out a way to get the book pushed out and then start. We're seven people away from getting into people who can make into a TV series. So Mark volunteered. He's going to start working on finding 7 people.
Where I would love to get it as a TV series would be on Apple TV. I think, bar none, they have the best shows going at the minute. Over Netflix, Prime, anything. There's some amazing shows on there. They did Blake Crouch's
Dark Matter.
Was fantastic. I'm glued to that. So yeah, I could see The Veil or something like that because they're very well done as well, and I love the camera lighting and everything that Apple TV do. So yeah, let's get it over to Apple TV.
Yeah. We'll start pushing it out. That's the goal for the chat. We're gonna make it happen. Yeah, I hear amazing things about Apple TV, and I've not seen any shows from Apple TV. I'm a huge Dark Matter fan. Blake Crouch, I'm a huge fan. I just haven't had the opportunity to sit down and watch the show. I haven't seen it.
God, man, you'll love it. You will. You'll love it. It's right up your street.
The book was fantastic. I have I got a lot of thoughts about the book. I can do hours of just yapping about how amazing I think that book is. And then the symbolism and the thoughts and the themes within that book. So that'll be for a later time. We'll go through and we'll jump into some Blake Crouch. So I want to jump in now and talk a little bit more detail about The Veil, obviously without going into too much spoilers within this book. Mm-hmm. What I really liked about this book was Charlie's guilt. I feel like it's a powerful emotional anchor in the story. So was it a plan starting out for it to be an intentional theme across the whole book? I know you said originally it wasn't there, and then you added it on there, but was it a situation where you said, "Hey, I really want this to be an anchor of this whole story"?
Yeah, because when I wrote the first draft, without going into any spoilers, it's quite hard to do this, but everything happened like it happened in the current version that we have. But the motivation for Charlie to do what they ultimately have to do in the book, it needed more. It needed more because it's quite dangerous what they get into. So that's where Mikey was born. Three quarters of the way through writing the first draft, he popped up, and I was like, it gave me more reason as to why the second half of the book happened, and it also gave me a good reason for conflict between between the guys, so it makes
Mm-hmm.
it more compelling reading. But then once I had that set, I then, like I said, I added more and more layers to it. So Charlie's Guilt came as more of a added layers as for each subsequent draft to really give the reason he does what he does and what happens to them, to give it pure, true meaning. Is like, if you were Charlie and you were faced with that, and because of what happened and what happened to Mikey, and he blamed himself for that, then you would do anything. Especially if you're presented with the opportunity that you could potentially find him and get him back,
Mm-hmm.
you would do the crazy things that they do to get him back, and
Mm-hmm.
it gives that nice twist between the four guys as well, because they're wanting to go one way and another, and so it's what gave the veil its undercurrent, its heart, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, like I said, when you reread it and then you're rewriting it again, you start to notice themes and you start to notice symbolism as you go through. So your work in the next second or third draft is to highlight those, and really bring them out as much as you can, and then cut it back like a diamond cutter, would shape and cut a diamond just to make it just right for the final draft. So yeah,
Yeah.
no, it wasn't intentional. It was just natural to the story as it got layered.
Was there any hidden secret Easter eggs within the story? You mentioned there's one that someone went through and caught. Is there any other Easter eggs within the story that um, you'll be surprised if readers go through and catch? Oh, did you lose me or did I get lost? Am I frozen? Hey, chat. Is it me? Can y'all still hear me? There he is. He's back. I can't hear you, my friend.
Okay.
All right, perfect. If you didn't
Sorry.
like my question, you could have just passed.
No, as I said before we came on stage or came on live, the internet does. I don't know what happens. It dips out. It's like it gets choked every couple of hours and just stops. What was the question again? Is there any hidden
I
Easter egg?
I yeah, I put Easter egg. So you mentioned there's one Easter egg within the story that one person caught. I didn't know if there was any other Easter eggs that we should be going through and looking out for within the story.
No, I'm not really. I can't really remember, to be honest. I know there's one that's kind of a hidden one, but there's more references to a lot of pop culture to really connect and grind the reader. Mentions of songs, movies, things like that. It was just something that I was playing with at the time, and I thought it quite worked. But I don't think there's anything hidden. Well, the whole veil is an Easter egg in itself for what it means for how I see, the world, governments, and all this crap. it's a metaphor, if you like, for that. And again, that was the inspiration for it, but it was never the intention in the beginning. I just wanted to tell a story, but when you come down to it, it's all about control. And when people get controlled, particularly human beings don't like to be controlled. And as soon as we're aware of it, someone puts their hands on you in the street, someone grabs you, you will fight tooth and nail to get out of that grip.
Mm-hmm.
So when the kids discover that they're gripped in that way, it's about what you would do, as particularly if someone else is there that you could help. So it's about it's about the human need to not be controlled, to be free, and then that would be the theme, if you like, if there is such a theme. So an Easter egg of the overall kind of story, and within that, all the craziness that happens as we go along.
So within the story, was there any character that surprised you as you went through and wrote? Did anyone evolve far beyond your initial vision for them from a character perspective?
Yeah, Donna, for sure. Donna's actually turned out to be more than a few people's favorite character. Editor, a few people, I think even Rowdy said that. A lot of people were, they love her story, her arc, and that was totally unintentional. Charlie's the main character, but he's quite stable through it, and he has his own growth, his own redemption or whatever he goes through. But Donna, for sure. Donna, because a lot of people say that she's the favorite, and she's actually ends up being, the hero or their favorite character, which was a total surprise. So that's what I'm saying about, I didn't plan any of that. I just wrote it as it went along, and that's just how it turned out. So yeah, Donna for sure.
I love it. No, Donna's definitely one of my favorites, and Donna is awesome. Well, I can't agree more. Yes, Donna was a fantastic character. I truly love Donna. All right. We are doing, I don't know how familiar you are with my interview style, but what I like to go through and do is put you through what I call some ridiculous questions. Some questions that I went through and thought up that hopefully they've never been asked to you before, and we'll go through and throw them at you. All right? Okay. So it's all fun. All fun. All right. So you get thrown into your book for 24 hours. The world of your book for 24 hours. What are you going to go through and do?
Oh, that's a very layered question. Am I unveiled or am I still veiled?
I will let you. You are unveiled for this You are unveiled. You jump in. You're unveiled for 24 hours, and that's it.
Right. Okay. If I'm unveiled for 24 hours, and it's been some time since I've been unveiled, then certain things would have developed, and that is what I would love to play with for 24 hours, depending on whatever's developed. Can't say anything without spoiling the story, but anyone who's read it will know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Definitely, I would like to stay in our world as well, rather than in the world. But if I'm unveiled, use whatever is developed and take the fight to the Vang on this side of the story, or on this side of the worlds, if you like. Yeah. Quite a cryptic answer, because people are like, "What are you on about?"
No, I got what you're saying. I guess it's a harder question without spoiling anything. All right, so I got another one. One more ridiculous question. If you could sit down and interview one of your characters over a drink, just one drink, who would it be, and what's one question you would want to go through and ask them?
Oh, Jesus. That's a hard one. I suppose I would have to pick Marty, so I could have. It's quite a sad answer, but maybe just to have a final chat with my cousin one last time. But apart from that, God, I don't know. Maybe Charlie, and just pick his brains about what he went through, and how he managed to do everything that he did, how he kept it together, how he didn't keep it together, all the different twists, bits and pieces. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, we're gonna jump into the lightning round. I hope you're prepared. So I don't want you thinking. First thing that comes to your head. All right. So I got a list of lightning round questions here to my side. There are 9 questions. All right. No thinking, just answer. If you could have one ability from the Veil, which one would you choose?
Donna's.
Favorite book you've read this year?
This year.
This year.
Shit. God damn it. Oh, right now I'm reading 7 Steps to Midnight by Richard Matheson, and Corvina's The Coven is awesome. Or The Coven, sorry, I'm loving that. So yeah, cool. Those 2.
All right. I have this one written down, but I know the answer already, so it should be the easiest one so far. Are you a morning writer or a night writer?
Night writer. After work.
One book you wish you written?
Salem's Lot.
Awesome. What's your favorite trope, and what's one you cannot stand?
Favorite trope is, well, it's always good versus evil. I mean, that's never going to go away. One I can't stand. One with the bad guy, becomes good. I think that's overused now. It's done. You can see it a mile away. There's nothing really to do. I can't think of anything. I may do something with that one day, but then twist it and make him bad again. I don't know, but yeah.
It was all ruse the whole time. Most underrated genre mashup?
Most underrated genre mashup. Underrated, because comedy horror is quite it's not underrated, but it's one of my favorites,
Yeah, I'll take comedy horror. You don't see a lot of people doing comedy horror. We'll do that one. All right, 2 more.
Yeah. Books-wise, you mean? Book-wise, comedy horror.
Comedy horror.
Movies, yeah. All right, go on.
All right, 2 more. Favorite snack and drink?
Favorite snack and drink? Crisps. I eat a lot of crisps. And my favorite drink's Coke. Ice cold Coca-Cola.
All right, last one. This is my favorite question. If your book could have a theme song, what would it be?
For the Veil.
For the Veil, yes.
A soundtrack or an actual song? Oh, no, the Doors. People Are Strange.
Nice. All right, perfect. Another awesome fun fact: I've not read Salem's Lot. That's another book I've not read yet. Again, I just started reading in 2020, so I have so many books I need to catch up on. But I have that on my list to go through and read now. I'll make sure I add that closer, pushing up on my list. Perfect. All right, I love it. People Are Strange. I think that's a great answer. All right, so that was fun. Or at least for me, it was fun. So jump back into some of my questions I have. If the Veil could be adapted, what would be the dream medium? Would you want a TV series, or do you think a film could really put the story together?
That's difficult because it's quite a long. It's not overly long, but there's a lot of meat to it, isn't there? I think particularly the structure of the second half of the book would work better as a TV show. It would give it more time, maybe 12 episodes or something, to tell, because it's kind of broken up in that way anyway. You could even have 2 seasons in the middle of the book, and then how it flips over. I think a TV series would do it justice.
Do you have any actors in mind that you would want to play Charlie in The Crew? Have you thought about it?
I wouldn't, because I'm not really up to date on young actors these days. I watch a lot of movies all the time, and TV shows, but I don't really know them by name, to be honest. I would need to be prepared for that one. Kind of. Have you thought of any? I don't really know many young actors. They're all the young actors I used to know they're all about 30 now. Like Harry Potter and all those. But no, I wouldn't even think. No, I couldn't think of anyone. I mean, maybe people. The only one I could think of is Lazoo, and I would get Tim Curry to play him. Tim Curry, who played Darkness or the Devil in Legend. He played It in the original TV series.
Yes, Tim Curry. Yes, yes,
He would
yes.
be amazing as Lazoo, I think,
Yeah,
for the voice and everything.
yes.
They're all around 17, so I don't know any actors that young at the minute.
Yeah, I have no idea. I didn't know if you had any ideas of what you have in your head. So you're a big movie person. What kind of movies do you like going through and watching?
A lot of horror, but I do watch everything. Well, most things, but a lot of horror, sci-fi, fantasy, everything really. Everything is going. What did I watch today? I watched Alien versus Predator 2 today for the first time in ages. I'd already seen it. So actually, I thought it was really good. It was kind of got slated. I've seen it before, but I watched it today after I finished writing. That's what I like to do when I finish getting my 2,000 words done. I kick back with a movie or two. It's like a little reward to just decompress and get the words out of your head. But I watch everything, everything.
So horror from a horror side. So I don't get to watch a lot of anything I want to go through and watch because I have young kids and I can't put on horror stuff until they're in bed and it's like 9 o'clock at night. So I get to maybe watch one horror movie a week between reading and life. Do you have a recommendation of a great horror movie that I should go through and watch?
That you would have seen old or new or anything?
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
One of my favorites is John Carpenter's The Thing. It's amazing.
Yeah,
You seen it?
I've seen it. It's fantastic.
Um,
Any newer ones? Newer ones. I do want to go through and see what is it? 28 years later. I do want to go through and see that. I just got to
yeah.
figure out who I can drag to go see that movie with me because my wife doesn't do horror, so it's the struggle bus that I'm on.
Right. I'm just pulling up my list here that I've watched recently. I mean, this is a few years old, and it's that horrible and scary that it intrigues me, but it's terrifying. The only thing, well, a lot of things scare me, more subtle things, but the things that outright scare me is anything to do with the devil and demonic stuff like that. It just, The Exorcist and scares the shite out of me, big time. And Hereditary, have you seen that? The people who did Midsummer.
Mm-mm.
Hereditary is horrible, but it's very well made, but it's terrifying, fucking terrifying. And I've got it ready to watch again. I just haven't built myself up for it. But be prepared. I would watch it if you want a really good and you want to be scared and freaked out in your head, just your head twisted. Hereditary is a good one.
Okay, I'll check that one out. I've not seen that, but yes, yes, Sean. My wife doesn't watch horror movies at all. She doesn't like them. She likes what is it called? The 1800s movies. You
Period.
know, like the time period pieces. That's what she likes to watch.
My
So
missus, yeah, my missus doesn't like horror that much either. She likes Bridget Jones and all that kind of stuff.
exactly, yeah, that. And then she goes through and watches Outlander. I think that's the only show that I can kind of watch part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, I'm just like, okay, I'm kind of done with this. So normally I'm sitting reading while she's watching her nonsense.
Yeah, nonsense is right.
Yeah. Oh man. So you have a lot coming down the pipeline. You have a lot. Is there any? And it seems like what I do really enjoy about what you're putting out there. You don't have a common. Hey, this is a common genre. It seems like whatever comes to you, you go through and hey, this is the kind of story I want to go through and write based off of that nugget of an idea. Is there any stories, any genres that you haven't tried yet that you're really intrigued to maybe jump into one day?
Yeah, well, for now it's all suspense and horror, and that'll be very much like if you imagine Stephen King has quite a diverse thing, but it's all the same kind of theme all the way through. What I like doing is taking normal people and putting them in really bad situations and seeing and seeing how they figure their way out, and just messing with them, really badly. That's a lot of fun. Um, but I will write. I do want to write a straight story at some point, or a few straight books where there's very little, if any, supernatural element to it. Maybe like a crime or detective or something like that. I love Sherlock Holmes. Always have done all my life. So um, that would be definitely in my future, somewhere down the line in a few years' time. But I've got so much to tell right now. I mean, I've got 3 days. It's almost finished. Tina's queued up, and the next one after that is a book called Ferndale, and then I've got another one that potentially after maybe The Dream Police, which is another one I'm working on, which would be very quite, yeah, I don't know what that, like I say, I don't really stick to a genre because I don't want to be held down. I just literally, things just come to me and I just want to write about it. That's it.
I love it.
But in the future, yeah, crime, and a detective kind of thing for sure.
I think that'd be very cool. Yeah, I'm a huge Sherlock Holmes fan. Love it, love it, love it. I got a copy of, what is it? Moriarty. It's called Moriarty. I cannot recall who the author is, but pretty much the premise is Sherlock Holmes is gone. There's a bunch of killings, and they go to Moriarty to help solve these crimes. So it's going from his perspective on solving crimes since Sherlock's gone. So I'm like, how are they going to go through and do this? So I'm very intrigued with that story.
Yeah, because he was as smart as Sherlock, wasn't he? That's why he was his nemesis. That sounds really cool. I like that idea.
Yeah.
I love all the way he works things out. And it's always quite a surprise. So Conan Doyle, whenever he was writing them, it must have been really a lot of fun to layer it with all the little clues all the way through, and then have the big reveal when it does. Another thing too, I love Guy Ritchie as well, the way he writes stories and how everything connects. Particularly near the end of his stories. Like I think involved that one Mobland. Was it Mobland? The one that was just out recently. I've just finished it. And then there's another one. What's it called? Is it the Gentleman that was out last year?
Yep.
I like those kind of stories as well. Like Snatch and all those. How you have all those different storylines and how they all merge, or they twist and turn and then they all merge it together and have a really cool ending that you didn't expect. So maybe something like that with a detective or a Sherlock Holmes feel to it at some point.
I think
I haven't even got an idea for it right now, but yeah, somewhere down the line.
You'll get a nugget. You'll be 3 more books in, and then you'll get that awesome idea that you'll be like, I'll start adding layers to it and think of something awesome. Yeah, I'm a big fan of thrillers and those kind of detective stories where it's like I got to actually use my brain to outsmart people. And yeah, I think you would do a fantastic job going through and doing those kinds of stories.
I've dropped hints of it in the Veil, the Joe Devine detective agencies. That there's a little mini short story that Charlie has said that he's written, but it's a little hint to something in the future. So it would feature this detective called Joe Devine, but in the Veil, I described that he got pushed out of normal detective agencies because the weird stories, like the supernatural stories, always kind of landed on his desk, and they didn't want him around. So he ended up going out working for himself, and he still gets the supernatural and the weird stories. So I can't get away from the supernatural side of things, but yeah. So there is a little hint there for Joe Devine may make an appearance sometime soon in a year or two. We'll see.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't. Oh, let me click it. Yes, Samantha says you're like an unbottling of all the creativity. I'm thinking, that the Diet Coke, you stick the Mentos in, you turn the lid real quick and you shake it. I feel like that's all the stories you have in your head, and they're just like trying to come out.
Yeah,
for you.
yeah, that's exactly it. I haven't even finished 3 days, and I wrote the first paragraph to Tina today. I was like, just do it, just put it down, because now that it exists, I want to get at it even more. Not that I didn't already. So that'll push me to get these last 28,000 or 2 weeks, and then I'll be straight on it.
So, as an author, what are your goals? for writing? Do you have any?
Go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what you?
what I would love is to be able to do it full time. I'm not talking, I'm not greedy or anything like that, but enough to pay my mortgage, enough to pay the bills and maybe save a little bit, enough to cover the wage that I earn now and that I live off. And if I can make a living and do this full time, all day, every day, um, then yeah, that would be amazing. But if that doesn't happen, I'm still, nothing's going to stop me from writing. But I'm going to be working as hard as I can to try and achieve that goal. You need material out there to do that. Um, and if I didn't have that goal, I probably would still work as hard as I do anyway, because I just love it. Getting stuck in. It's very very relaxing. It's great. It's a lot of fun. Going to all these worlds, and you know you get to be all these different people. There's one guy called Richard Evans in 3 days, and he's a bit of a bastard. He's a bad man, and it's a lot of fun writing him because you get to be really mean to people and stuff, and no one can say anything to you. So there's all that.
Hmm. I honestly, I think you definitely have the capabilities to go through and do it. I see what you've done with the veil and the passion you have within writing stories. I don't see why it can't happen. So I say just we'll keep pushing it. We have a lot of fans, and we'll get in front of the right people, and then hopefully we can make it happen sooner than later.
That would be amazing. Yeah, yeah. I appreciate the support, of course.
So for your books, I'm really curious. So for the veil, so what does success look like for you when it comes to putting out a book? Like, what do you have a number set in mind? Do you have a certain outcome you're looking for each of your stories?
Um, I don't really know because it's so early days. I've only started writing just over a year ago, and the second book's coming out now next week. So I think I've got six reviews, which are all decent, very good reviews so far. Nick Snape's putting one out either tomorrow or Tuesday, so that'll be seven before it comes out. So that's to me is a good start for my second book. There's 18 pre-orders, which again is pretty decent for just for a second novel. But what I really would love to get out of it, especially now with the veil, since we created Molly and I created, I started with fantasy, as you have the Ranger there behind you, which was I will always love that story as my very first story. But as Rowdy said, when he read the veil, he goes, I think Eamon's found his niche, and I know it too, that horror and suspense and that nice slow build is something I always wanted to do. The Ranger was really for me because I always wanted to tell my own little version of Lord of the Rings. There's another story to wrap that up. I don't know if I'll ever go back to fantasy, maybe one day. But right now, because I'm trying to get a name for myself and get recognized a little bit, I'm going to write in the genre that I'm going to be writing in, which is going to be suspense and horror. And I like a nice slow build, and then flip it and have a higher build up. But what I would love, I see each book as it's just another a step in the staircase to the point of getting where I can do it full time. So with each book I release, hopefully I climb that little bit further toward my goal of getting recognized, or someone really liking what I write and getting a fan base that, if it exists, to be able to sell enough or make enough to live the dream and just write full time. Um, but ultimately, it's just to tell good stories and have people really to enjoy them, and be able to discuss them like what we're doing. And also with Dark Veil Society as well, is we created that group to really, every one of those writers, they're all brilliant in their own
Mhm.
way, because every one of us all have our own unique voice. We all sound completely different from each other, but they're all very, very good, very, very talented writers. And um, that was my initial idea, was to, it's so hard doing this on your own, and just trying to, well, yeah, but basically make it on your own. So there's strength in numbers, and now that we've grown a lot since we created it earlier in the year, and people are starting to recognize it a lot more,
Mhm.
and that helps get our name around. Plus, our Discord's a lot of fun. We go in there, we shoot the breeze, we talk a lot of shit. we have a laugh, we have fun, but it's like a little family now, supporting each other. So for each book, as I say, it's just to get better too every time. Always learning every day. You learn every single time you sit down to type, or every time you read. You do, and it's just to improve and hopefully one day make a little bit of a name for myself where I can do it full time.
Love it. Yeah, I'm trying to get through all the books from the Dark Veil Society, but y'all keep adding more and more people. So it keeps adding more and more people on my plate. But I've had a blast so far with every single book that I've gone through and read from the team. So I'm hoping to one day get closer to catching up. But it's been a blast. Y'all just keep adding great people on there and having a great time going through and reading the stories.
About halfway through myself. I'm reading Corvina's at the minute, and Blake and Jan's is next. And then, oh god, yeah, there's loads of them. Like you say, there's loads of them. But I want to read my own stuff as well. So it is hard. It is hard. Mm-hmm. But it's fine. It's good. It's very good. It's just time is all you need, really.
Yeah, and they're all great people. Like every single person I've gone through and spoke with, they're all very nice, down to earth people, and all hilarious. I've not met one. I don't know if that's a requirement to be part of it. It's like, tell me a funny joke.
Yeah,
but they're all great and extremely funny people.
Yeah, Janelle, they're all doing very well as well. Janelle went to #1. Molly's got a sequel to Dark Bloom coming out. Sean's got his book coming out, I think, a week after mine. Corvina's got her book coming out in the summer. So yeah, we're all busy. It's like we're building up a wee bit of a Dark Veil Society summer. But we'll see. We'll see. Especially now that I've got my debut coming out, and I'm moving away from fantasy, and I'm cementing myself. I would like to, really market us more and get us really, really seen now. It's a bit hard to do that when I haven't even got a horror book out, and I've created a horror group and mine isn't out yet. But with that being out now, I can think about other things and expanding. And is my camera gone funny again?
No. You blurring a little tiny bit, but it happens. There you go. You're good. Yeah. You're good. So jump it into the Veil. For those that are on the fence of going through and picking up this book, what kind of readers do you think would resonate most with this story?
People who like, well, first of all, if you like Stephen King, that kind of slow burn to begin with, a real dive into characters where there's a threat of something happening as it goes along, but it takes its time to ground you with the characters. And the reason you do that is because it's building empathy. Because whenever something happens to those characters, then if you've built empathy between the reader and those characters, you really feel it then when something bad happens to them. That's why he takes so much time developing his characters. But if you like Stranger Things, or if you like that kind of, I wouldn't say 80s because I didn't set it in the 80s. I almost did. But yeah, if you like those kind of, like the Goonies, teenagers, kids getting into trouble and seeing what they go through, or even it, like the remakes, that kind of, because what they go through is not nice. It's not nice at all, and it's quite heavy and harrowing and scary what they go through. So if you like those kind of themes, yeah, that would be what I would suggest.
Perfect. All right, so we talked about your upcoming projects. You have so many moving parts going around. I cannot wait to see what kind of chaos you do within these genres. So you have a big fan waiting very patiently for those. But how can people go through and find your work and go through and support you?
Well, yeah, I'm on X as E.H Bradley, or eamonbradley.com on my website. That's where you'll find us, or you'll find us at darkveilsociety.com. That'll be the three main places you can find, or Amazon, obviously, for the books, Eamon Bradley.
Perfect. Well, I really do appreciate you jumping on. Everyone, thank you so much for joining, who joined on the chat. I will have all the links. I'll have links to your website, links to all your books, to the Dark Veil Society, the works, down in the description below. But thank you so much again for joining. This was so much fun, and I cannot wait to get the paperback, hardback, whatever I decide to get, to put it on my shelves with the remainder of the Dark Veil Society. I'm building a shelf down here at the bottom just for you guys. So I'm very excited for it just to keep stacking up. So the Veil will be the newest one on there. So again, thank you so much, and have a fantastic rest of your day.
Cheers.